back, everybody, to episode 52 of the Harsch Review. If you're new, this is a fun and entertaining podcast hosted by me, Sean, and my brother Ryan. And we've got lots of interesting stories, things we've been watching, current events of the week coming up. So glad you're with us. But first of all, Ryan, how you doing this week?
Hey, I'm good. How you doing, Sean?
I'm doing all right. Nothing too much, just ready to start looking forward to 2019.
Yes.
Year goes by quick. Older you get, closer to death we become.
Birthdays don't matter so much.
Nope.
If you're a guy.
Yeah, if you're a guy. And you're a kid. Kids like birthdays.
Yeah. Yeah, I scored tickets to the Rolling Stones this weekend.
Oh, where are they playing at?
They're going to be at the Rose Bowl in May.
And when you say scored, you mean you paid money?
Yeah.
Ah,
I didn't
yeah.
find it. I wasn't laying on the street.
I've never really been able to get into the Rolling Stones, but I'll be honest, I never really gave them a fair shake either. You've never seen them before?
No. And I'm into I love their stuff, but only up to a certain period, like mid-70s. Everything after that kind of sucks. It doesn't sound as good, but I mean, they have so many hits and so many great songs. It's kind of admirable. They're still going, and they're all, I think Mick and Keith just turned like 75.
Jeez.
And Mick's running like 8 miles a day, and he's doing yoga, and it's like, guy's on it. So it's probably going to be, from what Keith said, it might be their last tour. So it's one of those once in a lifetime things. If you like rock and roll and, anything from that era, they're pretty much the only holdovers from that whole 60s era.
So you're not a fan of that Love is Strong, where they're all dancing around these large buildings, like their comeback in the 90s when they made like new music?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I've never really listened to it, but it doesn't sound as good to me as like, Jumpin' Jack Flash, Street Fighting Man. It doesn't sound that, I mean, if you look into how those old songs were created, it was pretty innovative, I think. One story from Keith Richards' documentary is he did like Street Fighting Man into this like old beat up tape recorder. Like he just recorded the guitar, and then when he recorded the track, he just played what was on that tape into when they mastered the track. So it sounds like super distorted. So they just did like a lot of cool things back then that were kind of innovative, and then now it's, I don't even know why they're bothering to put out new music. It's just like, you guys have so many songs.
Yeah, they don't need to.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, if they just played like, blues covers, that's cool, but I think they did that on their last record. But yeah, I'm pretty excited. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's a week before my birthday, so
okay.
That's a cool thing.
Nice. Good for you. Have you ever seen a concert at the Rose Bowl?
I saw U2 there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, about 5 years ago, maybe.
I saw him there too. I don't know if we were at the same concert.
We might have been.
It was the U2 360 tour.
Yeah, Black Eyed Peas opened up.
Yeah, that was terrible.
Yeah, it wasn't that good. Stones will probably have a cool opener. They usually do. So,
all right.
Yeah,
and it's in LA, so you never know who's going to come out on stage.
Right.
Well, I don't have anything as exciting as getting some Rolling Stones tickets. But I did take your recommendation, and I watched Apostle on Netflix.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, so you watched it, right? Yeah, obviously.
Oh, yes. Yes.
So first impressions, I'm really curious.
This movie really messed up my mind. Like, after I saw it, I was like, whoa. Like, I just went to bed. I was like... it's pretty good. Like, I like movies that show like a different time period, or TV shows and they keep it like authentic looking. So this movie reminded me a little bit of that show Taboo with Tom Hardy. I don't know if you've seen that, but just kind of the look and the griminess of everything. But the movie is very weird. It's really like bizarre. It starts out as this guy, he goes to this island where a cult is to find his sister who's been kidnapped, and he just starts. He's undercover, so he starts getting into it, and it just gets really crazy, especially in the third act. The violence like ramps itself up.
Yeah, it's for those who don't know, this is a somewhat new release on Netflix called Apostle. It stars Dan Stevens, and it really is about like Ryan mentioned, it's a guy who sister was kidnapped for ransom, and he has to kind of infiltrate a religious cult that lives on some island, and try to get her back. It's directed by Gareth Evans. He did The Raid. So if you've seen The Raid, it's a super high action, violent as hell.
Yeah,
it's a good movie. But yeah, it's
really good.
Pretty. This is a twisted ass movie. Aren't my normal type of movies, because it gets like in territory you would see kind of like not like Saw, but what's that other movie that Eli Roth did?
Like Hostel.
Hostel. There we go. It's got moments of like Hostel in it, so it gets super dark, violent, old torture devices. You get your creepy religious stuff, weird supernatural elements. It's just a crazy ass, demented movie.
Dan Stevens is great at like conveying the shock and the horror that we see, and then he's seeing stuff too.
He's a really intense actor.
Yeah,
come a long way from Downton Abbey.
You see the whites of his eyes a lot.
I'm starting to really like him, but he's picking these strange scripts. I mean, the last one I saw, I don't even remember what the hell that one was called. That was pretty wild.
You
remember?
If you remember the first viewing challenge?
Yes.
What's the guest? And I was like, I didn't know who the guy was. Like, I didn't know he was even British. I didn't know he was still doing stuff. I just thought it'd be a fun movie to recommend to somebody who has no idea what they're getting into.
Yeah, Dan Stevens is a guy from Legion.
Really good.
For those who don't know him by name.
He's great. Like in the film, in Apostle, he has like a little bit of a drug problem. He's just always looking like shit.
What's he taking, by the way?
I think it's like morphine or a pretty popular substance back in that time period, because it's like in 1900. It was called laudanum, which is something a lot of like housewives used to take, and it was basically just liquid opium. So they just take like little drop it in their mouth, and then that's probably what it was. It was like some kind of opiate, because after he took it, he would just be out of it.
Yeah.
Remember, he was taking it, like dude knocked on his door, and it's like, dude, go away. I'm trying to get high.
Yeah, he's just out of it.
Yeah. Like, we got to go to work. And he's like, oh, shit, that's the last thing I want to do right now. I'm all high on opiates and I have to go to work.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah. I read a little, I always like when these movies are done, like I go online, and because it's pretty cryptical. It's like there's some stuff going on that definitely, like, it's an analogy. So the director was saying something like, it's a little bit about like, it's obviously about like some environmentalism, but it's also about politics and religion. How we kind of use and abuse the earth, and then we have to give and then take, and then so that made a little more sense in terms of what the movie is. It just presents everything in a twisted way. And for fans of the Gimp from Pulp Fiction, there's a character in this one that I think it might be the Gimp's like grandfather or something.
This movie's got a Gimp.
About?
Yeah, that dude was pretty weird.
The Grinder.
I know.
That's his name.
It's
Michael.
What's his name?
Michael Sheen.
Yes, Michael Sheen.
Yeah, who I didn't really recognize at first, but he did a great job too.
Who was he? Wait, who was he?
He was Malcolm.
Malcolm. Okay.
He was the
prophet. Yes. Okay, that's true. Yeah, he looked great in this one. So it's the kind of movie that starts off. It's set in 1905, so it's a period piece, and everything seems kind of straight up. But then they start to just slowly drop the creepy, weird horror factors in, and those continue to kind of pick up pace through the whole movie, and then it kind of has a what the hell kind of ending to it. It's not for the faint of heart. There's a lot of just evil violence and wicked things in here. A lot of strange visuals. It's a unique movie. So if you kind of like horror movies, if you definitely like seeing like that dark kind of violence that's got like occult and religious themes to it, you'll definitely enjoy it. But it's pretty it's a pretty tormented movie. So
Yeah,
tread carefully. But check it out.
I like the slow burn it kind of had. It wasn't like a super slow burn, but it just kind of started to ramp up, and you're just like, "What is going on?" You know, at some points I kind of paused it for a minute. I was like, "Whoa, like what's going on here? What's really going on here?"
Yeah, it's one of those. It's if you watch the trailer, it's going to be very misleading. I would recommend not watching the trailer and just going in blind. Because you see a lot of visuals that you are kind of anticipating, and they're usually out of context. So they did a good job with the trailer, not giving anything away, but it makes the violence seem a little bit different. So I would avoid that if you could, and just watch it straight up.
And there's a very unique torture device in here.
There's a couple of them.
Not for the squeamish whatsoever.
Yeah, there's a couple of them. Whew.
Yeah. Ouch. Yeah, it's good. It was good. You know, I'd been meaning to watch it, and I was like, yeah, you should check it out too, just so we can talk about it for a minute.
Yeah. You know, outside of that, I just slowly been working away at the first season of Next Generation. Almost done with it. I've been talking with buddy Matt over at NFHC podcast. He's going to be ready to come and join us to talk more Next Generation at some point in time in the future. So I mean, how much have you seen of this Star Trek show?
Nothing lately, but it seems like if Matt's coming on, I'm gonna have to start doing my homework.
Well, didn't you watch it at all when you were younger? This seems like it's right up your alley.
But that was many years ago.
Okay, so you have seen it.
Oh, I have seen it. I just never really followed it. I wouldn't mind getting into it. It's one of those things where, you know, sometimes people recommend, hey, you need to watch this, and you're like begrudgingly, okay, I'll check it out. But then you just kind of lose focus. But this is something I'd actually want to just kind of revisit and see, because it is huge, and it seems better to me than the original TV show, which is just so kind of stupid now. I mean, people are way into it, but this one seems a little bit better in terms of the acting and the production values, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's a lot more dialogue driven. I mean, it translates better for the time period in which it was made. I mean, there's still a lot of things you're just kind of like, yeah, I'm just going to give them that. I'm not going to, you can't roll your eyes or be specific. You got to understand that the show's 30 years old. I feel like I'm doing like cultural homework, you know, because Star Trek has such a huge role in our lives that a lot of people don't really realize its influence, even going back to having like the very first interracial kiss on television. It's so I kind of like that I'm paying my dues, so to speak, and kind of going through it, giving it the time it needs for it to be entertaining.
Are you seeing like any commentary, like in terms of like, I mean, besides what you said, like any commentary on like current events at that time? Or
it's a good question. A lot of the stories are kind of like little moral lessons or discoveries that they kind of have, and they're kind of evergreen stories, so they could apply at any point in time. And so I do feel that they do carry through today. I haven't quite seen anything that is like, oh, that came true, or something like along those lines. But speaking of which, you just kind of reminded me. This is a little bit of a sidestep, so bear with me. But you're talking about movies and shows where you see things kind of come forward, and I remember watching Minority Report again recently. You remember, obviously Minority Report. So that's the Spielberg Tom Cruise movie. I'm pretty sure everybody has seen it. Anyways, so that's becoming a reality. And do you know what I'm talking about?
With the precogs and the
So well, take away the precogs. But British cops have been building an AI that flags people for crimes that haven't happened yet. And this is one of those moments where I think it's just crazy how Spielberg, and I can't remember who wrote the script or the story for that one.
It's Philip K. Dick, who He wrote Blade Runner,
Okay.
Man in the High Castle. He wrote Total Recall.
There you go.
Yeah.
So perfect example where he's kind of came up with this pre-crime concept, wrote a movie around it, and now it's actually happening. And this is like no joke. So the police in UK have been piloting and testing a project that uses artificial intelligence to determine how likely someone is to commit or be a victim of serious crime, which is the premise of Minority Report, except they use precogs. This is a computer. And right now there's about 5 million identifiable people in their logs and in their system. They've got over a terabyte of data, and there are 1,400 indicators of this data that can help flag somebody who could commit a crime. And they get like a risk score. So depending on what you've done, like you're starting to develop a risk score. Even if you have good intentions, you can still kind of get a score. And so now they're starting to use it. And, that's like keeping check on people. You might get like a random knock on the door, just like, hey, how are things going?
Hey, mate.
Yeah.
Just checking in on you.
I know. And so
what's going on tonight?
There's a lot of that going on.
Wow. It's cool, though, how these movies kind of, even Space Odyssey had, like, you had an iPad, and then you have Alexa, and just in that movie. And then now those things are obviously really happening. And I remember reading something recently where someone was telling their Alexa to turn off the lights, and it went, no. And so it started, and then it like he told it to do something else, and it like gave him some smart aleck remark. And it was like basically someone had hacked into the Alexa and was just kind of messing with this dude, but it's like,
it's happening.
All this, it's all happening. And it's kind of neat to see that we're in a very unique time period, I think, just in terms of what we're witnessing and what's really happening and going down. I mean, even maybe the cheesiest science fiction movies have stuff that is starting to come true.
Yeah,
maybe some of them.
I mean, like in Minority Report, they had the Tesla type cars that you just hop in and it just takes you to your destination.
Yeah,
and that's happening now. Tom Cruise even had like the Oculus Rift type of goggles and the hand gloves, and he's manipulating 3D environments to do the whole computer thing, and that's a thing now. I just always think it's rad how like art, science inspires people to make certain things, and that's a big part of like an argument for science and just science fiction, is that it gets people to dream what is possible, where instead of letting the pragmatic application of something kind of discover you.
And science can also lead you to things like getting into sexual allegations. Let's look at Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Oh, he didn't. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, this guy is so cool, like in terms of having like never really understanding a lot of what he's talking about or what until he starts explaining it. But basically he has some investigation pending where there's some sexual misconduct from two women. Last year, a woman accused him of drugging and raping her while they were grad students. Yeah. So
yeah. Did you see his response to it?
I did not.
Yeah, he came out with some response, just kind of saying it was a good response. He didn't really kind of say innocent or guilty. He just pretty much said like in science and all things science, it really comes down to evidence, not one person's word against others. So we need to let the evidence speak for itself here. And I'm 100% cooperative with that. And he kind of talked about public opinion and, being guilty of something that you may not have done because of social media trends and stuff. And so he actually had a pretty well thought out response. I don't have an opinion if he did it or not. All I can say is, honestly, prior to hearing this news about NTG or NDT,
NDT,
NDGT,
yes,
I've seen photos of him socially that people have put like on social media when they run into him like at a bar or something like that. I saw somebody post something on Reddit a couple weeks ago about how he had a photo of him and he ran into him at some random bar in Iceland once. And just the photos of him, like when he's out and about, he's got like this weird vibe to him.
Yeah.
His style. He's like one of those weird in between science dudes, to where he kind of dresses like Jimi Hendrix a little bit, and he's kind of eclectic in some of those ways. But I always kind of thought he's like, that's just a strange dude socially. And then when you watch his show Star Talk or something, he's got some weird vibes on that show. So hearing that, I got to be honest, I wasn't like, oh, no way. But at the same time, I'm like, well, I don't know if he did or not, but personally wise, he always kind of had a quirkiness to him that
probably because he's like very intelligent,
Yeah.
Guys that are very intelligent, like they have a hard time of being socially adjusted, or just being appropriate. And I'm not saying that's an excuse for what he did, but it's like it is. I'm sure he's wishing there was a wormhole he can just jump into right now, and like teleport himself to some other time period.
Yeah.
To escape this, but he has to be held accountable for whatever he did. So,
well, the last thing I'll say on this is he is a celebrity, but it's from a science point of view, and that's a evidence-based community. So I'm going to be really curious to see how his community responds, defends, or supports him until something comes out, as opposed to the he said, she said types when it was all like the Hollywood types, So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, sticking with science fiction, we all know a little bit about John Malkovich, kind of a weird dude.
Yeah,
huh?
The movie or the man?
Well, the man.
Yeah,
but this guy, very interesting. This is actually a news story. It came across me. It's kind of a couple of years old, but I thought I'd just bring it up. I don't know why it's news, but it was on a news site and it was showing itself as being real, but it is a movie he did that won't be seen for 100 years. It's called 100 Years, the movie you'll never see, which has been showcased at the Cannes Festival, but it wasn't screened there. It was put in a safe program to remain locked until November 18th, 2115.
Well, we won't see it.
Yeah, sorry.
Will anybody care in 2115?
About movies? Like,
Yeah, or John
Robert
Malkovich.
Rodriguez, directed it. It's just, it just seems interesting.
So he made a movie. It's got like a plot and everything.
Yeah,
and then they said no one can watch it until 2115.
Right, and they locked it in some vault, and then the I hope that our descendants will consider the movie 100 Years for the Palme d'Or at Cannes Film Festival in 2116.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
it's kind of pushing that a little too far, but whatever.
That's kind of interesting. I mean, I guess you could probably do something very controversial or whatnot, and then by the time it comes out, hopefully everybody's desensitized at that point.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's funny how like older stuff that seemed shocking at the time is now it's not that bad,
Yeah.
Definitely times have changed, but it kind of makes, I was thinking the other day, like it would be interesting to see what certain people would say about our time period, like George Carlin or, guys like that. It'd just be interesting to what they would say about this time period. People that once were very controversial, just now you kind of want their take on this stuff. Because we're living in definitely weird times and a lot of surreal things going on like this and presidency and whatnot. So, yeah.
Well,
just a thought.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. So speaking of movies, the British Film Institute, this was something that came out in the Telegraph. I don't know if that's a national or European source. I think it's British, but the British Film Institute will no longer fund films which star villains with facial scarring. So
I saw
very,
this.
very specific. Yeah. And, they want to kind of get away from the stigma around disfigurement, I guess. Mm-hmm. And that comes from like people, you're going from, they say from Darth Vader to Scar in the Lion King, and how people kind of link disfigurement to villains, and that's kind of spreading bad vibes in pop culture and movies and things along those lines. So they're no longer going to fund it. Yeah.
So that British Scarface I was hoping for is not happening, or
Well, it won't be funded by them.
okay, all right.
It's just an interesting trend to where, part of me gets it. Like, I understand they're more entitled to their opinion and sensitivity on creating these kind of stigmas in culture, but at the same time, free speech and stories are stories. If that's what somebody wants to do, then, by all means, they know they're not going to get funding from the British Film Institute if that's what they want to talk about.
Interesting. It's coming from Europe because they've always been kind of on the vanguard of pushing, new stuff. And
yeah, they got like
being a little more edgy.
women with titties and commercials over there. So
yeah.
Yeah.
They got 4 cable channels and half of them have, breasts on them. So
yeah,
you'd expect that kind of edict to come from America. We're not going to portray this or that. And
yeah.
all right. I mean, that's interesting though.
Yeah. Hey, I've been meaning to ask you, how's your Red Dead adventures coming? Are you flattening out? Are you staying with it?
Yeah, a little bit. With me in video games, like for the first couple of weeks, I'll go pretty hard.
Yeah, hot, cold.
Yeah, and then it's like life steps in, and you have to like get stuff done. So this is kind of a busy time of year for me at work. We're wrapping it up, and we're going to be done in a couple of weeks. But I've been playing it like sporadically, just kind of doing the missions and messing around. I really want to spend some time hunting the big game. I've been doing a lot of the fishing, but I want to start going after the hunting stuff. But
yeah,
have yet to get into the online experience. Have you penetrated that little?
I have first time with Matt. So Matt's been streaming a lot more on Twitch.
Cool.
Which, if you haven't checked out, Twitch is a cool website. I watch it quite a bit. I follow people that stream games that I'm interested in. If there's like a strategy game or something along those lines, you can kind of learn and see different points of view. And then there's just an entertainment factor, because when we play games and, you're up all night or super late, like there's a lot of funny chat and stuff like that. So I think if you use
a lot of racist talk, I'm sure too.
No. The
grown men yelling at 12-year-olds.
Yeah, no, you have to be mindful. You gotta be sensitive.
Yeah,
but they're a pretty politically correct group on that, but definitely love the edginess that they have. But anyways, NFHC podcast. You can just search it over on Twitch. You can find it there. But anyway, so he's streaming. So him and I jump on, and we're doing the whole online thing, which is very similar to the game. It starts off, you build your character, and I made my guy look super ugly as hell and haggard. You kind of design your cowboy, and you pick his name, and you go through some story where they like let you out of jail, and then you have to do some certain things to kind of get back into good standing, and then eventually like the open world opens up where you go and do missions, or you can just run around and be a total prick.
So it's like a separate game almost.
It is. And
how cool.
Yeah. And I mean, we played a lot of the first one 5 years ago. So, I mean, it's Matt and I on horseback. We're riding around, and then you run up onto some other player who's cruising around, and then just lasso him and grab him up. And then, there's like all these little wars starting out of nowhere, like cowboy fights and stuff like that.
Sweet.
It's pretty fun. You can definitely do a lot with it. And eventually you can kind of grief people out of the game where you keep hunting after them and they keep dying, and then you respawn and then here you come again. So they quit.
Yeah.
It's kind of, it sucks because then
all psychopath.
Start hunting the kids. Yeah. Yeah. So we're doing, we're playing a little bit of that. And then we did a bunch of Diablo, which is a super rad game made by Blizzard. And we played some of that till like 4 or 5 a.m. the other night.
What's
Diablo
that game
3.
all about?
It's kind of like a old school arcade type of game. It's a dungeon crawler where you go into like a dungeon. You have your different characters. You get loot. You level up. And put your gear on. And it's like this repetitive cycle. They kind of talk about. Diablo is one of the first games, at least, kind of captured this rewards system in games to keep you playing. And that is, if you get a reward from playing, you want to continue doing it. So In a game like Mario, the reward was beating the levels and seeing how far you could progress before you turned off your NES. Had to start over from the beginning. So the challenge of the level and things like that were the reward. And in a game like Diablo, it's not only can you clear like these crazy dungeons that have all these bad guys in it, but you're constantly getting loot, which is stronger pieces of armor. That's how you upgrade your character, is the inventory you find, so to speak, as you're playing the game. And so you keep playing because it's this cycle. You continue to get loot and gold and over and over and over, and you just are riding that little endorphin kick wave, so to speak.
Is it anything like World of Warcraft?
It's made by the same guys, so Blizzard definitely made it. It's not like World of Warcraft where that's more of an MMO RPG. This one's just kind of like more of a arcade type of game. It's something that you could play with a joystick and a bunch of buttons like on an arcade box. So it's like a top down, you're looking down at your guy running around and stuff like that. It's a button masher, but it's a lot of fun. And so it's something that anybody who knows of Diablo 3, I'm sure some people have played it or whatever, but it's a cool game.
Maybe I'll check it out.
Yeah, we just did some of that, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, nothing too crazy. And I think that's
your game experience.
That's my game experience for the week. So, but I mentioned loot boxes, and do you know a lot about loot boxes and like the role they have in culture, since you're not like a contemporary gamer, so to speak?
Well, it seems a loot box like a physical thing you get in the mail.
No, that's like the loot crate.
Or like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, well, I do remember playing with you for like, I think a week I lasted, World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
And that was just all about like, and that was just so intense. I was just like, whoa. Made my head spin.
We hit that hard for a couple of years at one point.
Yeah, man. It's like, but not really. It's just like you just go around and get all this shit, or like,
all right. So when video games kind of started in the 80s, right? You would buy your game and came out of the box as it was. All the glitches and all those kind of things, that you got what you got. And then once online gaming started happening, there's an internet connection. Developers would then push you games that may not be completely 100%, and then they could update the game online so that your game could evolve and progress. They could fix things and stuff like that. So games started getting more advanced. And then,
but it's also interactive in a way, because
you had online chat and you had all those other things that came along with it, multiplayer online. Whereas back in the original Halo, if you wanted to do multiplayer, you'd get a little hub and you'd all plug your consoles into it, and then you could sync your consoles together and play online. So we do that with Halo and stuff like that.
I mean, that's pretty cool, because it allows the creator to interact with the person who's partaking in it.
It is,
so it's kind of like a work in progress. But I mean, they're not going to do everything you tell them to, but
sure,
they're still accepting your feedback, and they're tweaking it continually as you get more invested in the game.
Sure. So there's pros and cons to it, but as it continues to evolve, we're talking like, early 2000s and things like that. Eventually, with the PlayStation 4, you could just start buying games digitally. You don't even have to have a disc anymore, right? You can just download it straight to your PlayStation. And it's kind of, what you kind of found is the trend is that no game you buy is perfect on day one. It's pretty rare. Nowadays, you're kind of expecting them to work out the kinks over the course of, 30 to 60 days. And if they don't, then you tend to get a pretty hard drop off in player retention. But where I'm going with all this is a new kind of game model surfaced, where instead of charging you for the game, right, you could just give it to somebody for free. And the way you made your money was in-game currencies or loot boxes. So you would sell things within the game, and that's how you made your money. So a good example would be a game like Overwatch, another Blizzard game, where it's a very, very popular global game where it's like a first person shooter. You have teams of 4 or 5 against each other, and it's the game costs you $60. You can buy this one, you buy, and it's just $60. But they sell these loot boxes inside, and it just gives you cosmetics, changes the way your player looks, doesn't give you a competitive advantage, just how you look. And then Call of Duties have loot boxes where you can get different color guns, you can unlock gear and things like that, get different outfits. A game like Fortnite, which is one of the most popular games in the last decade, is a free game, and then everything within the game is all about loot boxes. And then, of course, what I believe is where this really started was with mobile gaming, when you'd see something like Candy Crush. You can download it for free, you can play it, but then you run out of your things, and it's like, continue for another $1, or Farmville, I think, was the true first game that had like this loot box economy. So anyway, so it's getting to the point to where loot boxes are getting out of control, I guess, globally, and a lot of different people are starting to look at them because of the impact they're having on kids, and the economy, and it's influencing kids. So the
like
FTC,
little kid going into his mom's wallet, taking a credit card out.
Yep. The FTC is actually going to be investigating the practice of loot boxes to make sure there's no oversight, and there may have to be regulations, because a certain element of it is also like gambling in a sense, because there's been games where you can get a competitive advantage for spending money with them. It's not just cosmetic, so if I am competing against you and I spend cash on the game and you do not, I will have an up on you. So right now, by 2022, loot boxes are going to be a $50 billion industry.
Woo.
And it's totally changed the dynamic of how publishers make their money and the ecosystem of their games. No longer are you making money off of just a $60 disc, but you have to put transactions within that game in order to keep it continuing to pay out. And so they believe that children are very susceptible to engaging in these in-game purchases, which appear to be integral components of the video game. They think it's a very serious issue, and it's having negative impacts on the game. And I can say that as a disciplined adult, you can totally ignore them and be like, who gives a crap if you're wearing an orange jumpsuit or not? A lot of people really do care. It's their hobby. It's what
opening
they're
up
into.
them loot boxes.
Yeah, let's get at it.
I like that. I like that name, loot box.
I know, loot box.
What's in your loot box?
Yeah. So it's a thing. So
wow.
I know.
It's like you wonder if life was like that, like you could just, hey, I got a loot box. Let's see what's in this.
I got a loot box.
Oh, I got cheated. like, like this, every loot box you buy, like, is it a shit? Like, do you get to see
it's
what's
random.
inside of it?
It's totally
that's what
random.
I mean.
You don't know what you're going to get.
So it's kind of like a shitty office work gift, It could be a really cool thing, or it could be not.
Yeah, totally. Totally true.
It's kind of but yeah, I see what you mean now. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't really know about this too much. I mean, I knew there were, with the apps and whatnot, there's like, they kind of rope you in where it's like, yeah, it's free. And it's like, is it though? And then there's all these add-ons, air quotes, that of course cost money. But I could see how people just kind of, it's so easy to do. If your card's already loaded into your username, you just tap the button and it just automatically bills you. So
yeah,
I can see how
this
would
get
be
a little crazy.
A problem.
You can spend a lot more money than you probably should. All on the loot boxes.
I got a loot box.
Yeah, so we'll see, but it's going to be an interesting thing to kind of pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
The loot box.
It's our evolution. What's going on?
Yeah.
Speaking of evolution, Florida. I think I'm going to make this a regular part of the show. There's always
what's going on in Florida.
Coming out of Florida, just always something. This is in Nassau County, Florida. Deputies have arrested a man accused of stabbing a woman in the head over an undercooked baked potato.
What?
Yeah, 36-year-old Kenneth David Crumpton Jr. was charged with aggravated battery. The witness said Crumpton stabbed her in the head with a fork, and they got an argument over a baked potato. And then he said, of course, this is what the total guy response is. He threw the fork, and it glanced off her head.
Oh,
However,
yeah,
the
it
victim
glanced off her head.
I just threw it at her. But the victim had multiple stab wounds and visible blood all over her head. She refused treatment, of course. This is Florida after all. So, it just seems when you mix OxyContin and baked potatoes, you can have some problems.
Jeez. Only in Florida, right?
Yeah, only in Florida. And then the second runner-up state to our evolution and as a species would be Arizona. And this occurred in the heartbeat of evolution, Walmart, where this guy was rushed to the hospital because he shot himself in the privates inside a Walmart.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it was so what happened was an adult male accidentally shot himself in the groin. This happened around 6:30 p.m. He had a semi-automatic handgun in him. It was in his waistband, and he began to slip. It was not in a holster.
Mm-hmm.
He tried to reposition his unit, the gun, not his unit, but he tried to reposition it, and then he was in the meat section, I guess, grabbing some bacon or something, and the thing went off right into his privates.
My goodness. In a Walmart.
Yeah. In a Walmart.
Poor dude.
Yeah. Yeah. No one, not immediately clear if he would be charged by the police department. And the identity and his condition, his status have not been made public, thankfully for him. But
yeah, thankfully.
If you're in Arizona and some gentleman shows up to work with something going on in his crotch area, it's probably the guy.
Probably him.
Yeah.
Jeez.
That's evolutionary news for the week. I think that's where we're going.
Evolutionary news for the week.
Yeah.
Ryan's new bit.
Right. Yeah. There's always something, it's either those states. I don't know.
Well, I mean,
a lot of fodder.
Yeah. I mean, every state's kind of got that, but
yeah.
Florida definitely, I think, takes the most there,
You think we get more out of Alaska in terms of that? I mean, I know we had an earthquake there, but Alaska seems to be a place where a lot of people go to escape stuff. Like the law and so forth, and Florida too. So I think you get a lot of odd news out of those places.
Yeah, Alaska's pretty strange.
Yeah. You were there, right?
Yeah, it was I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. I'm just trying to think. Like Alaska, it felt like everyone was either sizing you up to rob you or kill you, or they didn't want to make eye contact because they were, guilty or something like that. I don't know.
Right.
It was definitely pretty interesting.
Were you dressed like a parole officer or something?
No. It just was kind of had a sketchy, shady vibe to it. Maybe I'm just hypersensitive because I've watched almost every episode of Alaskan State Troopers.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a pretty interesting, show.
I'd like to go there though. Experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever it is. I'd love to go there just to see it. But
yeah, I know. I think I'm going next month again, so we'll see how that goes.
Cool. All right.
Yeah. So we were talking about, video games and all that kind of stuff.
Loot boxes
and so I've always kind of seen in shows where there's that connection between people who play video games and then, going to war. I even remember like in the Jack Reacher recently on Amazon that kind of came out. There's the guys that were flying the drones and stuff like that, and they had some video game references. And then there's that game with, Jerry Butler, I think it was called Gamer, where, you're doing your whole thing and real people are fighting or something and you're controlling them. I don't remember. I never saw it. Didn't you see that one or no?
What was it called?
Gamer? I think it was called Gamer.
I don't think so.
No.
I just remember the Wiz.
Okay.
Not or the one with the Fred Savage.
Yeah, the Wizard.
The Wizard. Yeah. It's
It's
like the only video game reference I have for movies.
Yeah, that's old.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then the last one Spielberg kind of came out with. I'm drawing a blank here.
Ready Player One.
There you go. So they put their goggles on, and then they do that whole thing. And so Microsoft recently signed a $480 million Army battlefield contract to purchase up to 100,000 HoloLenses, which are augmented reality devices for the Army. And this was reported by Bloomberg, and people are mixed on it, but essentially augmented reality, according to them, quote, augmented reality technology will provide troops with more and better information to make decisions. This new work extends our long-standing trusted relationship with the Department of Defense to this new area. So it's basically a Ghost Recon, which is another game I really love playing, but you would flip these sunglasses on, and then it shows you like the battlefield, but it's bringing in augmentations so you can see people highlighted, heat signatures. They could map targets from satellites with lasers, and then you would see those targets. It shows you distance to other people. It's totally crazy, but Microsoft just scored a giant chunk of cash in making a bunch of these for the Army.
Yeah. That's where your money is in that defense contract, you know?
It's going to start slow, so they got to deliver like 2,500 headsets within 2 years, and then they're before they ship to like full scale production. And it's a lot of people are starting to become really interested in HoloLenses. You've got like the Bose Allen Hamilton Holding Corp. I don't know what the hell that is. Lockheed Martin, Raytheon. It just sounds like, you know, military firms and stuff like that.
Right.
I know. So artificial intelligence, augmented reality, other technologies are raising new and profoundly important issues, including the ability of weapons to act autonomously.
Blowing shit up with the touch of your head
Skynet is
button.
real, and it's right down the street from my house.
I think the title of this podcast should be "Life Imitates Art."
Life imitates art. Yes, there we go.
That's what's going on here. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Would you like? So these won't be available to the public, obviously, right?
No. Well, they
Or
will be.
maybe
They will
for
be.
VR.
But
Yeah.
a HoloLens is simply a glasses or lenses that you can put over your eyes, and then the developer can do whatever they want with them. So it's like, I can make a PlayStation, you design the games for it, same kind of thing. But they're developing a system so that it meets their customers' needs, which is the Army. And so that's kind of the difference here. Yeah.
A lot of innovation comes from the military and like NASA, so it's kind of makes sense, you know.
Yeah.
Where that's going, but
yeah,
I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I've always thought about like jumping into virtual reality and stuff like that, but it seems a little much.
Well, yeah,
It's a bit much.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
it could be really awesome and gives us competitive edge. So you have less people die, but at the same time, you know, when you start having robots make decisions for you, who knows? I've seen enough of Terminator to know that Skynet's happening. So we'll see how that goes.
it's on. You see anything going on at that little factory?
No, I mean,
where you live?
Yeah, you're not gonna over at Boeing.
Yeah,
No, you just hear them lighting up their jets and stuff at night. No, so
nice.
Nice. Vermont Air Guard commander used an F-16 for a romantic getaway, according to some random place called taskandpurpose.com. I've never heard of this site, but it's a kind of an interesting story. Is that a commander for the Vermont Air National Guard was forced out of his job after taking an F-16 to do an interstate booty call. And so he took command. Was in the position about a year. He took it to Washington, D.C., for a trip that doubled as a romantic rendezvous with a female Army colonel who worked at the Pentagon. And so it's a
Army colonel.
Yeah, look at this, little scandals in the Army.
It sounds romantic, but you know, you should be using your work stuff for your love life.
Your work stuff. I think it's taxpayer dollars in this $16 million plane to go get some interstate action.
Way to impress your first date.
I know, right?
That's yeah. So yeah, he won't be flying again anytime soon, I'm sure, huh?
No, no, he's
Probably
got a new
some sort of
job.
Buddy Holly plane or
Yeah.
something, but
Imagine
he won't get anything.
Imagine doing a job interview and be like, so why didn't it work out with the Vermont place? Well,
Yeah,
I had this need.
you're right. Yeah, I couldn't drive down there. I couldn't just get on a plane with my discount. I had to actually fly the plane to the place.
Yeah. Well, you're like, I'll be there in 10.
Yeah.
Take off.
It's not like you're taking the company car. Like go run errands and shit. It's like you're taking the company plane to go get some booty.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, like he didn't think he'd get caught. Like he was that slick. But
there you have it.
apparently he's not. He's not. Dang.
Yeah. Well, that's all I have, man. I don't got nothing else interesting to talk about. What about you?
Nah, I was just all this stuff going on with a couple more shows I saw. This is a really interesting one because I'm into like cults a little bit. Like I just find them fascinating. Jonestown Terror in the Jungle. It's a been using up my YouTube TV this week. A lot of cool stuff on there. A lot of like garbage, so you have to sift through everything. But this really caught my attention. We all know about this guy Jim Jones, who led a bunch of people to mass suicide. You know anything about this, Sean?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, this is where we got the expression "Don't drink the Kool-Aid" from, because this guy was a cult leader in the '60s, religious cult, and they ended up moving down to Guyana, which is in South America, and they ended up taking all their lives. They drank. People say it's interesting in this documentary. It's really cool. It's not as riveting as that other cult documentary, Wild Wild Country, which I think that was almost a hypnotic kind of thing, where you get totally wrapped up into something you didn't really know about. This one, it's still pretty good. It's well made because I've seen a couple of them, and this one actually has like survivors and a lot of the people that were around at the time. So definitely worth checking out. Like, learned a lot of stuff. For example, it wasn't Kool-Aid they drank; it was Flavor Aid, because you can buy it in bulk.
Okay,
so,
but don't drink the Kool-Aid sounds better than don't drink the Flavor Aid.
The Flavor Aid, yeah. So it was kind of like they were down. I mean, they were kind of like socialists, more or less. And a congressman came down to visit, and he got slipped a note by this guy that says, "Get me out of here. This place is insane." Because Jim Jones was more or less like a serious drug addict. He wore these dark shades all the time, and that's because he was taking speed, and his eyes are always bugged out of his head. So he'd be up all night, like on his intercom, just talking and rambling and whatever, and making people go nuts. So this congressman is attempting to like rescue a bunch of people. He got shot and killed, and then they found out that the U.S. military was going to do something, and so the next day they all took their lives. So it's really chilling because there are tapes that exist and survive of like the last minutes of the cult, and it's really scary, dude. Like it's even more eerie because they were recording over like some music on tapes, so you can hear like some crazy music in the background, and then Jim Jones talking, and everybody just slowly dying from cyanide poisoning. So he definitely like they got into his history and what made him what he was, how he got all these people to follow him. I mean, it was in the '60s, and that seems like when a lot of these cults were getting bigger because either people were fried out on drugs or there were stuff going on in their lives, and they just had to kind of deal with things. So he at one point faked an assassination attempt on himself. Like he got some guy to like shoot him, and then made it seem like he came back from the dead. And then that got even more people into what he was doing. So pretty fascinating. It's about 2.5 hours. DiCaprio executive produced it. It's got like I said, a lot of the survivors, people from it. He's got like kids.
So people did survive.
Yeah, like some people either like didn't go or they got off. Like a couple people when they got on the plane with the congressman, like they were shot and then they faked dead, and then like shortly thereafter, everybody in the commune or whatever like faked took the cyanide. So yeah, there's still people. He had some kids that they still call him Dad, which I found kind of interesting. Dad did this, dad did that. So it was it's pretty fascinating, to be honest with you. It's very interesting.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be looking what's it called again?
It's called Jonestown Terror in the Jungle.
Okay. Jonestown Terror in the Jungle. And it's on YouTube TV?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just took a break from YouTube TV. I wasn't watching it much. Maybe when baseball season comes around again, I'll fire it up.
Yeah. Yeah, I was watching it for also Walking Dead. So I was doing Walking Dead season 9, I think it is, but it's like 9A because there's going to be more starting in February, I think. So it's kind of like the first half.
So you're all in on that one.
The rest of the season. Oh yeah, I think it's a good show. I mean, you kind of invested in these characters. There's some things that happened this season that were already revealed in the press, so I'm not gonna spoil anything, but because I'm sure everybody knows what they are. But the comic books are really good too. The comics do a little bit more in terms of like character development, and storyline does follow it pretty much the same, just with a few exceptions. But yeah, you could see this ending pretty soon. I mean, you're taking out a couple of your leads, so it's kind of like what happens now.
Well, we know that
more or less.
Rick is gone.
Rick is gone.
And now they're starting to work on the other ones.
And then Maggie's also gone.
Oh, she is. Okay.
Yeah, she's gone too. I guess she wanted like some big pay hike, or she's thinking she's going to get some big movie roles or something. So I think she was either trying to move on or get more money. Then like after, it's a certain point in the series, there's like a jump in the future by like 8 years. So, I mean, I found that to be interesting.
Really?
Because then you have to explain. Yeah, it's like,
That's what you do when you back yourself into a corner.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's something Lost would do. But they didn't do that. But that would be
that's the beginning of the end there.
Yeah. It's kind of like, all right. And then, Carol has long hair, and it's like, the kids are all grown up and stuff. And it's like, all right, like, let's see how much further we can go. I mean, there is like, but it's just, you can see it keep going on. It's like, oh, there's another camp and they're doing weird shit, and let's go find out what they're doing. And then you kill off your leads and this happens. So, yeah, it's just kind of doing a lot of retread, but it is good. It's still a good show. I mean, in terms of suspense level, but
anything that's well made, well produced, well executed, it's you got to give it respect, even if you think it's stupid.
Yeah.
Like you might not be into that content, but you still can acknowledge like, yeah, okay. So at least it's well done.
Yeah, and like one particular twist that's kind of interesting is like the zombies they're encountering now are like smart zombies. So they're like talking, and they're like they're like following people in particular. So you're thinking like, okay, what's going on here?
I'm so far behind, but now this is sounds kind of interesting in some ways.
Yeah, but then there's a twist to that. I won't say, but
okay,
so it's like you're wondering like what's going on here. Are people like starting to employ these zombies to do stuff for them? And I could see the obvious like slavery analogy and all that. So it's like, yeah, I don't know if this is the last. IMDb says there's one more season after this one. That's projected, but who knows, right?
Yeah, who knows? I mean, we'll see. I don't. Depends on. I know they broke from the comics quite some time ago.
Yeah. Yeah, in the comics, certain characters get killed off like pretty quickly. So, in terms of the characters, there's some really cool. Like I think Negan's a cool character, and you see him. And
is he still in it?
Yeah, he's still in it. Still like in a slightly different capacity. So
sure,
but yeah, he's a good actor, and you have other people. I like Eugene a lot. I think he's funny.
Eugene, the scientist.
He's like the
mullet guy.
Looks kind of like Danny McBride.
That doesn't meet my calculations.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, he's one of my favorite characters. So, yeah. But I finished that, so I'm like, all right, good.
Okay.
You could started watching some documentaries. North Korea. There's a really good North Korea documentary on Nat Geo. It's called Inside North Korea. Let me get this wrong. Inside North Korea's Dynasty. So it goes back to like the first. It's more or less the dynasty we're talking about are the Kims. And so it goes back into like the first Kim, which is Kim Il Jong's dad, and it just kind of the whole history of that country and like how everything happened from the start after World War II. It's really interesting. Like I'm learning a lot of cool things about our relations and like how they view us, and a lot of little incidents that happened in the 60s and 70s and how these guys came to power. But I think there's like 4 or 5 episodes. I'm on number 2, so it's pretty good. I like it. A lot of cool footage like you've never seen anywhere.
Wow,
that surprisingly they were able to get. Like footage. What I'm finding interesting is especially is like how, and this is common knowledge, but Kim Il Jong, like he had kidnapped. He's like super into movies. He could probably be a guest star on our podcast if he was still alive. like in a weird way, like super into movies, like just. One thing he did as soon as his father died, he took over, was he ordered all these illegal prints of like every film you can think of. He loved James Bond the most, but the only thing was he thought James Bond was based in reality. And so one cool kind of theory that the documentary posits is like, he is engrossed in these films so much and he's so out of touch with Western culture though that he thinks these things are real. And so he kind of ingrained a lot of like what he saw in the movies, and he tried to make that a reality and the way he presents himself as a dictator. So I found kind of interesting. So like he looked at like, he was the propaganda guy before he took over, and he looked at North Korea's film industry, decided it sucked. So he took it upon himself to kidnap a famous South Korean actress and her husband, who was a movie director, took them to Korea for like 8 years and held them captive and had them make movies for him.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
If you want somebody to make movies for you.
Yeah, that's what you do. So you just kidnap them and yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. So really cool though. I mean, like I said, a lot of the footage is really unique. You learn a lot about how like they had those big stadiums, or because back in '88 when Seoul was in the Olympics, North Korea was trying to get like a co-Olympic thing going, like where they wanted the Olympics to be hosted in North Korea. So they were already like building all these stadiums. They built a 150,000 seat stadium to impress the Olympic Committee. And then the Olympic Committee passed on it. So they just had this big stadium sitting there. All these monuments and stuff. There's a monument that's dedicated to the first Kim that's larger than the Washington Monument. All the stuff is sitting there, and it's like you wonder where they get all this money from. It's a big mystery.
Yeah, no kidding. Wow.
But it's fascinating. It's really cool. I mean, if you're into history, if you're into like current events, especially, and just a country that a lot of people don't know about, but that's definitely in the news quite a bit. So, Inside North Korea's Dynasty.
There you go. Inside North Korea, Nat Geo.
It's funny, like you zip through Nat Geo and it's all like fishing and this and that, and then it's like actual history stuff is few and far between, or it's the same way with History Channel, but this is actually kind of stood.
Yeah, well, like Animal Planet stopped being about animals.
Right.
Same kind of thing. Yeah, and every once in a while you get some good programming.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I'll have to take a look at that. I'm sure I love history, so that'll be exciting to check out. Right on.
Yeah. You got nothing else or what?
Yeah, I'm good. I think we've
news week.
No, we have had plenty to talk about.
Yeah,
but I think I'll
loot box.
Yeah, loot boxes. We'll pull some stuff over to our next week.
Sean is exiting the podcast early, so we go check out what's inside his loot box.
I know. I've got him waiting for me. Just gotta unlock it.
He's all anxious. Yeah, he doesn't want to be rude and do it on the air.
Yes. Can't let you know that I support loot boxes, brother.
Of course not.
All right. Well, hey,
nice.
That'll do it for us. That was episode 52. Thanks for stopping by, everybody. And be sure to follow us over at the Harsch Review on Facebook, so you can kind of stay plugged in there. Or you can follow us personally over on our Twitter accounts at Sean Harsch or at Ryan Harsch. And we'll be back next week, episode 53, getting ready to take you into the holidays this year, 2018. That's going to do it for us. My name is Sean.
And I'm Ryan.
You guys have a good one.